It's hard to do at this stage now. All right, I think that's I can make that one. All right, welcome to our benchmark preview and holidays presentation. This one is probably going to be much shorter than, if you can tell by the one-page paper that you have in front of you versus a packet. It's going to be much shorter because we are, essentially done with everything for this first half of our school year, and thank you. We'll start with our normal ones back in January. So we're just going to kind of talk about the benchmarks, what to expect, how to help prepare, and then we'll also talk about how to keep the momentum going over Christmas break. So first thing to make sure about benchmarks is just be calm about them. They're not the end all be all. We don't even call them benchmarks in the class, like the kids last advisory didn't even realize that they were the benchmarks until they were all gone, because I called them the Ross opportunities. So as you're helping your kids get prepared, don't say your benchmarks are coming up, saying your Ross opportunities are coming up, because Ross is the online system that we use. So I just call them Ross opportunities, and that seemed to help alleviate some of the stress. So the tentative schedule as of now, barring any snow or any unforeseen changes, we'll take Virginia Studies and Science on Tuesday, December 15th. We're not going to really tonight talk about how to prepare for those because it's pretty straightforward. It's the Jeopardy, the study guides, all that kind of stuff. The reading one will be on Wednesday, December 16th, so 1 week from yesterday. And math I'm going to allot 2 days for that, 1 week from today and 1 week from tomorrow, just because as we look at the breakdown, there is a little bit more involved with math than the reading one. Couple ways to be prepared for both will come up on the way. So when we're talking about the math benchmark, I kind of broke it down so you can help target different areas. There are 35 questions. Of those 35 questions, 27% of them are multiplication, and that's broken up between just standard, here's two numbers, multiply them. Either they'll give them horizontally or up and down. Doesn't matter to me which method they do. They can do traditional, they can do lattice, they can do both. There are some estimation ones where they will have to round the numbers and then multiply them. And then there are the ranges. If you remember from our first benchmark, when we had the practice problem that it was like which difference would fall on this number line, they're going to have some like that, but for multiplication this time. We've been practicing that in class and there's been two flip videos, one about division, one about multiplication. So good way to practice that is you can just give them a number line and give them a set of numbers and say which product would fall in between this number line. Just getting them comfortable with the format, what to expect, which we have been practicing in school. I can actually even just pull up the exact thing that we've been doing in school for that. 30% of it will be division, straight up long division, 3-digit dividends, 1-digit divisor. It was broken pretty much half and half, or no, about 80% of those division problems are standard. They give them the two numbers and tell them to divide, either already set up in the little box thing or like with the division symbol. And then there are a number of word problems. I don't remember offhand how many, but there are a couple of word problems, some of those being multi-step problems. I kind of lumped all the word problems into that one. So there are some that they'll have to multiply and then divide or multiply twice. And then there is 40% is geometry. I didn't break that down by what specifically, because everything we've done with geometry. Geometry is just kind of one of those things that playing Polygon Pizza or reviewing the flip videos is going to be really helpful, because the geometry is kind of either you know it or you don't. There's not really a long division or multiplication where you can kind of fake it and come up with an answer. You kind of need to know this is a right, this is a line segment, this is a octagon, all that kind of stuff. So the ways to prepare, along the left side, I have ways involving technology, and along that side, as much technology. So IXL, I went through this evening and kind of picked out ones that would target as best possible. So all the ones with the D's, that is going to cover multiplication. D6, the lower numbered ones are just giving them numbers, and then some of them, I think D23 gets up to like estimation with word problems. So all of those ones will help. E8 is long division with just numbers. E9 is long division with word problems. So that'll help prepare them. P5, 6, 8, and 9 are all different things with geometry. And also, like I said, Polygon Pizza is going to be a really good resource to build your own. Reflex Math, depending on your child's level of math fact proficiency, that won't really help them, but if they, especially with the long division and the multiplication, if they're not really comfortable with their basic facts, that will help. A little note about IXL, Miss Moyer and I last year wrote a grant for IXL, and for a year's worth of a year's subscription. That grant expired on December 4th, so we don't currently have, the student account access right now. The money is coming, but we don't have it right now. So they can do, on the website, they can do 20 problems a day. So I wouldn't wait until, Wednesday evening, the day before the math benchmark, to try to get on those. Kind of pace it out. Maybe one day do D6, the next day do D, whatever they need. Target, if they're good with multiplication, don't waste those 20 problems on multiplication. Reflex, we do still have the money for this, so they can spend all the time on it that they want. They don't really need to. But IXL, they won't be able to physically get up to 100. Like I know they normally aim for 100. They won't be able to get to 100 after 20 problems. But that's just something to keep in mind. But hopefully, I'm really, really hoping that the money does come before Christmas break, because Christmas that's going to be one of the greatest ways to keep their math skills going. Polygon Pizza, which after I said that I didn't have the digital file, I did find the digital file of it, so I uploaded that to the classroom website. You can always build one. I actually have a couple of pizza boxes stored up to make different versions of different pizza things for the classroom for after different things using the egg cartons, like how I've discussed in past homeschool connection nights. You can use the egg cartons for division or multiplication. If you have really big egg cartons like I do, you can actually put just both on one and number tiles. That's a really good way while you're driving. Just bring an egg carton and some number tiles that you can just quickly make along with you, and that's kind of a ongoing thing. Reviewing any flip videos that they have problems with is going to be a really good resource, because those are very explicitly modeled and talked through, and they can watch them as much as they want. Or any past homeschool connection night recordings, either from this year or last year's, because I also did talk through the different things. So they have a wealth of video resources, because I know a lot of students are better with seeing things and listening to things and seeing things modeled. And one thing to make sure at home while you're preparing is just really reinforce good strategies that they need to be showing their work on every single problem. I know a lot of them, if it's like 500 divided by 5, obviously that's going to be 100. So that one is kind of easy to do in your head. But if it's one that they can kind of guesstimate, it's always just good practice to show the work so they get in the habit, because by and large, that's where the biggest mistakes are made. Just, I had a student who was trying to do it in their head and kept getting that 9 times 4 was 32 when it's really 36. So for the life of them, once they wrote it down, they got it, but they had already wasted like 15 minutes trying to do it in their head, and it said, took you 5 minutes to do it. So all sorts of strategies, really good strategy with long division, just right off the bat, write the divisors, products all along the side, and then takes one step out of it. But they have plenty of resources to prepare. This benchmark is a little less wordy, not quite as many word problems. The wordiest part of the benchmark is all the stuff with the geometry, but it's still pretty much recognizing this is an octagon, this is quadrilateral, whatever, just as long as they review that. So just make sure that they know each sides and what the vocabulary word is for each one. Any questions about math? I'll just not take questions all. Like I said, this is going to be a very short nap. So the reading benchmark, I know this looks like a lot, but I just wanted to give a big picture as possible. They will have 3 stories and 38 questions total. 44% of them come from fiction comprehension, so 2 stories that are made up. I personally, out of the 3 reading benchmarks they'll take throughout the year, this is actually my favorite one, just because I like the stories that go along with it better than the first advisory and the third advisory. I don't really like that. So I like this benchmark. I think the stories are good and engaging. And the one nonfiction story they will have, they actually do learn a lot from, because I actually learned a lot from my first year. So the stuff that they're going to need, I kind of don't know why I listed it, because it's kind of just a laundry list of all the different comprehension skills. We've been working on all these in class. We've been working on what's the overall theme of the story. We've been working on cause and effect. We've been working on identifying details. Fact and opinion. Fact and opinion is one that they need to realize that just because it's said in the text doesn't make it a fact. If they say that's a really nice sweater he was wearing, that's an opinion. You can't say that one person says it's nice, one person says it's not. And on the flip side, if it's not said in the text or they don't know it, that doesn't make it not a fact. That's one thing you can help them with. Problem solution, that's pretty much the most basic comprehension skill they've been working on since they first started reading, because most books are driven by conflict. Inference, we've been working on. Author's purpose, we've been working on about the 3 different reasons. Sequencing is another skill that they've been working on since like kindergarten, and compare contrast. All skills we've been working on. Nonfiction, details, sequence, you see they repeat themselves a lot. All skills we've been working on, so on and so forth. So vocabulary skills will be prefix and suffix, just basically like what's the prefix, what does in the sentence, like in preheat, what does pre mean? So before, that kind of stuff. So that word translates to heat, before. Synonyms and antonyms, which we've been working on extensively. They know synonyms and antonyms. And context clues, just coming up with what that word means, even if you don't know it. That's a really good thing to stress to them, that they don't need to know how to pronounce the word necessarily all the time, especially if it's asking them for context clues. Short definitely helps if they can kind of pronounce it and they've heard it, but if they are kind of having a hard time with decoding, the strategy I talk with them is just take all the answer choices and keep plugging it into the sentence until you find one that makes sense. And then grammar skills, that's just commas and pronouns, which we were actually working on today. All they need for commas in 4th grade, what they're tested on is actually pretty simplistic. It's just in dates, in locations, and in a series. So like June 4th, 1994 would be the comma after 4. This Saturday, June 4th, the Saturday, comma after Saturday. Front Royal, Virginia, the comma after Front Royal. And then in a series, I know that there's like a debate in the English community if you need that comma before the and, if it's like 3 things. We did have a discussion today about how you don't need it, but you should put it most of the time. I'm not going to get into that English debate, but that is one thing. That's how they will use the commas. For commas, what I was telling them today is that a comma can kind of take the place of the word and. So if it's like, he ate oranges, comma, apple, comma, and bananas, you can kind of put in and for that one comma, and then because they were trying to put commas in random places because they would be kind of happy. So they wanted to put like I, comma, am, comma, eating, comma, and. So I was like, would you say I and am and eating? So that kind of helped break them down just because they became a little comma happy with that. So how to prepare the best way, as I have stressed a lot of times, is just reading them, asking them, or reading with them, and asking them questions about their reading, and that can take multiple forms. It can take them reading to you, you reading to them, audiobooks, anything. Find something they're interested in, ask them questions about it, and targeted questions like, what happened first? What happened last? What happened after this? What happened because that happened? Why do you think the author chose that? What's the problem in the story? How did they solve it? Really just kind of, you can go back to the one slide that talked about the different comprehension skills, kind of target your questions based on that. If you notice that your student's having trouble with a certain skill, you can start targeting those questions and then model to them what the correct answer is. On IXL, on the language arts part, which again, they can only do 20 problems a day. I should say that 20 problems per device. So if you have a couple of different computers or tablets or phones, you could get up to 100 problems a day. So S1 and S3 will be about pronouns, which it's just as simple as like identifying that Jim and I can be changed into we. That's what the S's are going to be. NN and OO are going to be synonyms and antonyms. NTT is going to be prefixes and suffixes. Read Theory and MobyMax are also really good reading resources. Read Theory is free, and MobyMax we do have a grant for, so that's going to give them targeted reading instruction on their level. MobyMax I think will also read to them. Read Theory, I don't think that reads to them. Mr. Nussbaum is a website that's on my website, or a link to it's on my website, where it will give them a bunch of, he's like tens of thousands, he makes my website look bad. Like he has tens of thousands of links on it to different reading resources. The one that I really like on his is you go to and I can also, since we'll have time, I can walk through how to access all these websites and what the kids can do on them. But you'll go to language arts and then reading online comprehension exercises, and I'll give them passages and questions along with it, and it self-corrects it. So they have last I checked, I think they had second grade passages all the way up to like 7th grade passages, so you can kind of differentiate based on where your child's reading. And then reinforcing the good strategies, highlighting. You don't necessarily need to have them highlight in a book, but just use their fingers. So show where they find that answer and just really prove their answers. Like, don't kind of accept their answer without, like, kind of challenge them on it. Be like, well, how did you know that? And have them back their answer up. That'll just get them in the habit of proving why they are correct. Any questions about reading? So the last thing is pretty much just how to kind of keep the momentum going over winter break, because there, I was actually with Miss Brady earlier, and we were kind of looking at like different graphs we have over the years, and over summer, like the kids drop off, and then over winter they drop off a little bit. But reading every day is going to be very important. Just keeping that going. All those other different websites. Writing stories about what they're doing is also a really good idea. Last year, I had students who came back and had written me like a story, a little passage, what they had done every day, and it was fun to read, and I wrote that to them. So that's a cool thing they can do. And also they can, on Google Drive, they can also write, and if you let me know, I'm always willing to jump off. I'll be at my grandparents who don't have Wi-Fi, so I don't know how it's going to live. But when I do get back into civilization, I'm more than willing to write them back. I enjoy talking with them. MobyMax, IXL, and Reflex, those are some good things for reading. Flashcards, if they're still working on their multiplication or division facts. I know holiday break is a lot of time you're going to spend in car driving. Bring flashcards with, have the kids in the backseat, just flashcards. Well, probably wouldn't be a good choice. Pretend I didn't say that. They can also review old flip videos, because they're always going to be there. You can find a lot of cool math connections just in the world. Like, I know there's going to be a lot of Christmas ads coming up. That would, well, if they haven't already. I'm really bad at Christmas shopping, so I probably should have done that already.
Why?
Okay, good. I do everything on Amazon and just ship it to whichever grandparents' house I'm going to, so that doesn't.
You gotta stop saying you're going to your grandparents' house. It makes the rest of us feel really old. Just saying.
I'm going to my family's house. But you can kind of find math connections like all over, really anything. There was, like when I was at my conference, I kind of saw the way the room was set up, and so I took that picture and I was like, wow, we've done that exact word problem before, and I never thought that was an actual scenario that would pop up. And so you can kind of find those connections like that. And then math-aids.com is a website where you can just kind of generate worksheets for based on whatever skill they need to work on. You could do that as a digital. You could just, bring it up on the computer, or if you're traveling to your family's house that doesn't have Wi-Fi, you could print off ones and have them do something along that. For Virginia Studies in Science, that's going to bother me that 4-minute answer. They can always review the Jeopardies. The units we have completed are everything up to, we just finished the American Revolution unit. Well, we're still working on it. The really intensive study guides posted on the website. Quizlet flashcards are really cool. You can do that in a variety of different ways. And like I said, we're going to plan time so I can kind of walk you through all these resources. It's also good to have the video of that. You can do that as straight up flashcards. Like it'll give you a question, you can click and it flips it. Or you can also turn it into a game where they have to match the flashcards. They do like a Space Invaders type thing where you have to click and destroy the cards. And the weather's not always optimal for this, but it's always cool to kind of visit the places that we talk about. You can always open the study guide and see what places we will talk about, both past, like I know Jamestown would be a kind of a big hike to go down to, or Williamsburg, but we'll be talking about Manassas and Fredericksburg and a couple other places, which are a little closer. So you could pull up the study guide, see where they're going to be going, and visit them, and then that'll just help build stronger connections, kind of front-loading them for the stuff when we return. One of the units we've been working on is talking about the weather, which is kind of an appropriate time to be talking about the weather in this. So you can just kind of talk about the weather, like why is that happening, that kind of stuff. Bill Nye, that's always a good thing. I don't know if any of you have Netflix, but it is on Netflix. Like at least the first season is on it, so you can always watch that. And then just reading weather reports, that kind of stuff. When we return, we'll be talking about force, motion, and energy. So one really cool thing you can do with because electricity is another thing, you can also, with the Christmas lights, you can kind of show like, depending, some of the Christmas lights, you can take a bulb out and they all go out. Some of them, you take one out and they still stay on. So you can talk about the different types of circuits, because that's one thing that, if I remember this year, to not put away my Christmas lights, that's actually something we'll end up doing in class. Like, every year I mean to do that, but then put my Christmas lights away, and it's really hard. And most importantly, just make sure you do take some time to let your kid relax over holiday. I know that last slide was a laundry list of things to do, but they do work very hard in class, and we do push them very, very hard, but they do still need time to be kids. So obviously, I'm not saying Christmas Day, wake them up and be like, we need to play Jeopardy, we need to go on these flashcards, you need to go on Excel. Just let them relax, have some fun. Just do make sure they do get some time to read every day. It's really the main thing, because the reading is very important. So, any questions? I'll go through all the different resources just so you guys know, because I'm sure many of you know how to access it. But then if the parent asks, I can say, like, we'll go watch the video. So we'll go through all of these. You go to my website. That's not my website. This one, my website, whenever it wants to load. All right, so everything, all the stuff that we just talked about was on pretty much this column and below. I'll start with the Virginia Study stuff. Jeopardy links are here. You just really click on whichever one. These ones are the ones they could play to review if they want to kind of front load themselves. These are the ones, but these are the ones to make sure to keep everything fresh, everything from 1 to 5. Number 6 is what we'll start with as soon as we get back. And there are, some of them I made, some I found online, so some of them do have typos, just be aware of that, but most of the factual stuff is current. The complete study guide is there. You can kind of see where, I like this one a lot better than the one I did have uploaded, because there's all sorts of information on it, and there's pictures, and it looks nice, so you can see what they're studying, use this as kind of a quiz type thing. The flashcards are the Quizlet ones that I was talking about. So if we go to the Jamestown one, you see all the terms are here, and across the top you have the flashcards, the learn, the speller, the test, and then the 2 games. So the flashcards will simply be a flashcard type thing. The learn is where you can kind of use it as quiz, and they have to type it. If they don't know, they press don't know. It will give them the answer, and then they have to copy down the answer, so that's a good learning tool. Speller, this one's going to be an audio.
Growing crops and raising animals for food and
That's
trade.
terribly loud. So I wouldn't do that one. Moving on, this will just take it and turn it into a test. And then these 2 are the ones that they enjoy a lot because it's a game. You just match up this, the flashcards the year Jamestown was settled, so they match them up, they disappear. And then they eventually go until all the flashcards are gone. And then gravity is the one that's like Space Invaders. The gravity is a little bit more intense when it wants to load. They have to type the definition exactly as it is. There. So I would, as you're starting with it, because they don't play gravity as often in school, put it on easy and definition first. And so then it says, like, the House of Burgesses, and they'd have to type like the first legislative body or whatever the exact definition is. They're going to need to know the exact definition, which is going to be the hardest part. So you see, if they don't know the answer, then it does give them that. So I would stick with the scatter if you want to make it more of a game one, because that one can, they'd have to type that all in that time. That's a lot. And they need the exact spelling and everything. Scatter is going to be more fun and less frustrating. IXL is right here. We've talked about IXL in past nights. themathaid's.com. This is what I'm talking about with the worksheet. So you have all the different things alongside here. You have division worksheets, and you just they have all sorts of different ones, long division worksheets. You click on that, you choose 1-digit divisor, and then 3 or what have you, and then it'll spit out a little worksheet for you, and it'll also give you the answer key, so that's pretty cool whenever it wants to load. And then I think that's all the different resources that I've talked about. Oh, Read Theory is, let me see if I can get one of the kids as a login. Read Theory is we'll give them everything on their level. And so you see it'll give them a passage to read. This one happens to be a poem. It'll give them questions and they can flip back and forth and just different information about the things. It'll so peaks, post nearly means mountaintops. They hit submit. It tells them that they're correct, gives them an explanation of why it's correct. If they get it wrong, what makes rivers? I'm going to say that one has to be wrong. It will give them the correct answer, and it'll give them it automatically gives them the explanation if they're wrong. So it will show them where exactly to find it, and it will walk them through that. So that's all on there. They also do have Moby Max, which is up here. Moby Max. I gotta sign it as a kid.
Cameron, he's gonna come in and be like, what?
Yeah, I just set him back a level there by accident. Well, I got one right and one wrong, so.
You got 1 point.
So, Moby Max has math stuff, Fact Master, all sorts of stuff. The one I really like them doing is these 3 here, the reading stories, the literature, and the informational. Click on this one. It gives them a story. They have to go through it. And then, which I, since it says the main idea of this article, I'm going to say that's probably the wrong answer. So it'll give them one again. So that's probably the wrong answer. So then again, it will give them the correct answer and it will tell you an explanation. So all these websites will be kind of self-correcting and based on their own level. And one more I didn't put in the paper that I should have is Big Universe, which is basically a giant version of Netflix, but with books, because it has, let's see what it will give them, has a library of nearly infinite books. I don't remember how many there were last time. They can filter it by genre, grade, language, standards, subject, fiction type, quiz. I really like for them to filter it by quiz and then just pick key ideas, details, whatever, any of those. And then it will give them, they'll pick a story, they'll read it, and then when they're all done, there is a little quiz that accompanies it, and it does the same thing. It kind of talks about why the things are, take quiz. Then it says questions about it. So all sorts of different ways to do it. And then there's the current units of study page on there, where just updated like the other day, where it has the questions that I type in the answers and all sorts of information for you to use to kind of quiz your kids. I think that's all the different things I can show you. You know how to get to the flip videos. And I think that pretty much covers it. Any questions? I think I went through everything possible.